My name is Mia Carter, and for 7 years, Ethan and I were the couple everyone admired around our Atlanta suburb neighborhood. People loved to talk about us, the young pair who built something out of absolutely nothing. We met in college, broke, scrambling to pay tuition, surviving on cheap grocery store meals and endless hope for the future. Back then, Ethan had big, burning dreams to launch his own software consulting firm, and I believed in him more than anyone else on earth. I held a promising degree in interior design waiting for me after graduation. Clients were already reaching out, offering small-scale projects that could have grown into a solid career for me. But Ethan's startup needed every bit of attention, and money was frighteningly tight. Late-night conversations turned into quiet compromises. I set my design ambitions aside. I told myself it would only be temporary. I handled our household, paid bills, scheduled meetings, answered business emails on his behalf, cooked every meal, and kept our home steady while he poured every waking hour into growing the company. For years, we scraped by. There were months we could barely cover rent. I skipped buying new clothes, turned down friends' trips, and poured all my energy into being his safe harbor. When stress crushed him, I calmed him down. When deals fell through, I reminded him of his potential. I thought we were building a shared life, one where we would both get to enjoy the rewards once the hard work was done. Slowly, things shifted. The business took off. Clients multiplied, revenue climbed high, and we moved into a spacious modern house with a big backyard. We finally had nice cars, nice dinners, and the financial comfort we had once only daydreamed about. Outwardly, our marriage looked perfect. Neighbors complimented our happy marriage. Old friends cheered Ethan's impressive success. Everyone thought we had it all. But underneath that shiny surface, small strange changes began to creep into Ethan's behavior. He worked later and later. He started password locking his phone, something he had never done before. He grew distant during dinners, distracted, staring at his screen instead of talking to me. He forgot anniversaries, brushed off my attempts to talk about our future together, and brushed me off whenever I brought up feeling lonely. I told myself it was just work stress. Running a fast-growing business drained him. I kept giving him grace, kept forgiving the distance, kept waiting for us to go back to the warm partnership we once shared. Deep down, though, a quiet unease lived in my chest. Something was very wrong. One Friday evening, I drove over to his office building to drop off a forgotten laptop charger he had left at home. He was wrapping up late-hour meetings, and I planned to hand it over and head back. I opened the passenger side door of his SUV to place the charger inside, and my fingers brushed against a slim tube of deep red lipstick lying half-hidden beneath the seat. That shade was not mine. I never wore that color. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. I stood frozen in the parking lot, holding that foreign lipstick in my palm. All those tiny, unsettling clues I had pushed aside started clicking together. I did not want it to be true, but fear coiled tight inside my chest. End of chapter. Hook. I stared down at that unfamiliar lipstick, knowing my comfortable, perfect-seeming marriage was likely nothing more than a beautiful lie. I set the lipstick back exactly where I had found it. I did not leave a note. I did not storm into his office and confront him right then. I got back into my own car and drove home with my hands shaking against the steering wheel. My mind spun wildly. For hours I sat on our living room couch, going over every odd moment from the past 6 months, the unexpected business trips that happened last minute, the texts he would quickly hide when I walked into the room, the new perfume scent that occasionally clung to his jacket, all the little signs I had ignored, choosing to trust my husband instead of face painful reality. I did not want to jump to conclusions. I wanted proof before I shattered everything. Over the next few days, I moved carefully. I did not snoop through his phone behind his back. Instead, I paid close attention to his schedule, his social media activity, and the names he mentioned from work. I learned the woman's name was Serena. She was a new project coordinator hired at Ethan's firm only 8 months prior. Bit by bit, the truth unfolded. Mutual work acquaintances mentioned seeing Ethan and Serena grabbing dinner alone after work hours. I saw photos posted to a private social media account, the two of them laughing at a downtown bar. Taken on nights Ethan told me he was stuck working late in the office. There was no more room for doubt. My husband of 7 years was having an affair with a younger woman from his company. Grief crashed over me in heavy waves. I grieved for the years I sacrificed, for the dreams I had put on hold, for the man I once thought I knew. I cried alone in our guest bedroom when Ethan was away. My chest ached so badly some nights I could barely sleep. Many wives in my position would have burned with rage, ready to hunt down the other woman, to scream accusations, to humiliate her publicly. My best friend Lila called me after I told her what I suspected, and her first reaction was to urge me to confront Serena directly. Show up at her workplace, Lila said, voice tight with anger on the phone. Let everyone know what she is doing. Make her answer for destroying your marriage. I thought hard about that advice. Part of me craved that explosive release. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, to make somebody hurt the way I hurt. But the more I considered it, the emptier that path felt. Fighting Serena would not fix Ethan's choices. That woman was not the root of my marriage's failure. My husband was the one who had made vows to me. He was the one who had chosen betrayal. Why would I waste my dignity fighting another woman over a man who had already broken me? I decided firmly, I would never seek out Serena. There would be no screaming matches, no public scene, no petty revenge directed toward her. My conflict was only with Ethan. Ethan still carried on as if nothing was wrong. He came home, kissed my cheek, talked about company profits, and acted like our life continued as normal. He had absolutely no idea I already knew every ugly secret. End of chapter. Hook. Every night he returned to our house pretending to be a faithful husband. And I sat quietly, holding all the painful truth inside, preparing for the conversation that would change everything. Days dragged by. I kept up the routine of daily life, cooking meals, tidying our home, answering some of his routine business messages, all while my heart felt completely shattered. Outwardly, I stayed calm, but inside I was planning my next move step by step. Lila kept pressing me to go after Serena. She insisted I owed it to myself to make the other woman face consequences. If you don't say anything, she will just keep thinking she can have your husband without any fallout, she argued over coffee one afternoon. You deserve to let her know how much damage she has caused. I shook my head. Fighting her solves nothing, I told her softly. Ethan is the one who promised me loyalty. He is the one who chose to cross our marriage boundaries. Taking my anger out on Serena would only drain me. I refused to lower myself to that level. My self-respect matters more than a shouting match. I had spent so many years centering Ethan's comfort, his goals, his feelings. Now I needed to prioritize my own peace. I researched divorce attorneys in the area and scheduled a confidential consultation. I gathered copies of bank records, marriage documents, and evidence of the affair. Not to broadcast it for drama, but to protect myself legally when the time came. I did not want to be caught off guard when everything fell apart. Several people I spoke with expected me to lash out. Society often tells betrayed wives to confront the mistress, to fight for their marriage tooth and nail. But I no longer wanted to fight for this marriage. A relationship built on lies could not be repaired. I was not interested in begging a man to love and honor me again. I thought about the old days. I remembered the Ethan who held me through hard times, who thanked me sincerely for every late night and every sacrifice. That version of him felt long gone. Success and new attraction had clouded his judgment. I waited for the right moment to talk. I wanted us to be home alone, no distractions, no excuses for him to rush off to work. That opportunity arrived on a Sunday evening. The house was quiet. The sun set soft orange behind our backyard trees. Ethan got home from a quick work check-in, which I already knew was time spent with Serena. He walked in the door, kicked off his shoes, and asked what we had for dinner, completely oblivious to what was coming. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice stayed steady. I asked him to sit down on the living room couch with me. The light in the room felt heavy. The air grew thick and tense. I was ready to lay every secret out in the open. End of chapter. Hook. As Ethan sat down beside me, completely unaware I held all the truth, I prepared to tell him I knew about his affair, and that our marriage was over. Ethan, I began, folding my hands in my lap so he would not see them shaking. I know about Serena. I know about the affair. His face drained of color instantly. All the casual ease vanished. His eyes widened, and for a long moment he could not find any words. Panic flickered across his features. At first he tried to deflect. Mia, where is this coming from? That is ridiculous. She is just a coworker, he stammered, avoiding my gaze. I shook my head slowly. Don't lie to me. I have seen the evidence. I know about the dinners, the late nights that were never work. I found lipstick in your car. I know exactly what has been going on. The fake denial crumbled away. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, running both hands through his hair. Guilt washed over his face. Then he switched tactics, apologizing profusely, voice shaky. It was a huge mistake, he begged. I got caught up in something stupid. Work pressure was overwhelming. I never meant to hurt you. You are still my wife, Mia. You mean everything to me. Please, can you find it in your heart to forgive me? I will cut all contact with Serena right away. I can fix this. We can go back to normal. I listened without yelling, without crying hysterically. My heart hurt terribly, but I would not beg for his faithfulness. I did not scream insults. I did not curse his name. I simply looked him straight in the eyes. "There is no going back to normal," I answered quietly. "I sacrificed 7 years of my life for you. I put my career aside to build your home and support your business. I trusted you completely, and you broke that trust. I cannot unsee this betrayal. I will not stay married to you." Ethan's expression shifted from remorse to shock. Clearly, he had imagined a different scene. He expected tears, rage, bargaining. He expected me to fight to keep our marriage alive. He never anticipated I would calmly choose to walk away. "Wait a second," he said, tone turning sharp with disbelief. "You are just going to throw everything away? All these years we built together? This was one mistake. People work through affairs all the time. Not me," I replied. "I deserve better than a husband I have to constantly worry about cheating. I will not spend my days second-guessing every business trip, every late night at the office." He leaned back against the couch, crossing his arms, a flicker of arrogance returning. "You cannot be serious. Where will you go? You have not worked in years. This house, this lifestyle, everything we have is tied to me. You are used to this life. You will struggle out there alone. This is just anger talking. You will cool off." It was clear. Ethan assumed I was bluffing. He believed I was too dependent on our shared life to actually leave. He thought I would calm down, accept his apology, and pretend nothing had happened. I stood up from the couch. "I have already contacted a divorce attorney. The process starts this week." End of chapter. Hook. Ethan still refused to believe I would really follow through. Even after our painful conversation, he clung to the hope I would change my mind and stay married to him. In the days after our talk, Ethan oscillated between begging for forgiveness and acting as if the divorce threat was temporary. He kept promising to end things with Serena, telling me he could repair our relationship, repeatedly asking me to reconsider. But I did not waver. My lawyer sent over initial paperwork, and I began sorting through my belongings. I rented a small, bright apartment not far from the city. I packed boxes slowly, collecting my clothes, books, artwork, and personal mementos. I took only what belonged to me. I left most of the expensive furniture and household items we had bought together. Material possessions held little importance compared to regaining my peace of mind. Important to me. I never texted, never called, never sought out Serena. Not once. Many people around us found that choice strange. Family members kept saying I ought to confront her, to make her understand the damage she had helped create. But I stuck firmly to my decision. My battle was finished the moment I told Ethan I was leaving. Dragging another woman into my pain would not heal me. News of our coming separation trickled out to mutual friends. Most were stunned by how composed I remained. Some praised my strength, while others whispered I was being too calm, too forgiving. They expected drama, public fights, messy social media posts. Instead, I kept everything private. I did not air our dirty marriage to the whole world. Ethan watched me pack with growing unease. He had anticipated meltdowns, threats, ultimatums. Instead, he watched his wife methodically remove herself from his life. Even so, he had not fully processed the reality of our split. Part of him still expected me to call everything off. Shortly before I moved out completely, I overheard him on a phone call in the home office. He spoke to Serena, telling her our marriage was falling apart, and that soon he would be free. There was regret in his voice, but also excitement about the future they could share. My chest ached hearing it, yet I felt no urge to storm in and interrupt them. Moving day arrived. Friends helped me load boxes into a moving truck. I took one final look through the big house we had built side by side. Every room held memories of late nights, hard struggles, hopeful dreams. Those memories were real, but they belonged to the past now. I drove away without looking back. Within days after my departure, Ethan stopped hiding his connection to Serena. He brought her to our old home. They posted casual photos together online. To outside observers, it looked like Ethan had gotten exactly what he wanted. It seemed he had traded an old marriage for a shiny new romance. End of chapter. Hook. Ethan celebrated his new freedom, convinced he had escaped the mess of our broken marriage. What he could not see was that so much of his stability had relied entirely on me. For the first month after I moved out, Ethan appeared to thrive. He shared pictures of dates, weekend trips, fancy dinners with Serena. To everyone watching, he looked like a man who had left an unhappy marriage and found happiness. He told acquaintances that our relationship had grown stale and that this new chapter felt exciting and alive, but behind the glamorous social posts, small cracks began to show. For 7 years, I had quietly handled dozens of invisible responsibilities that kept both our household and parts of his business running smoothly. I scheduled vendor follow-ups, tracked expense receipts, coordinated home repairs, kept track of insurance renewals, planned social gatherings for business partners, and maintained our home, None of those tasks were glamorous, yet they kept his world stable. Now there was no one to take care of those things. Repair requests went unanswered. Bills got misplaced. Important vendor emails sat unreplied. Ethan had always focused only on high-profile client meetings and big deals. He never paid attention to the tedious back-end work I had managed for years. Serena had no interest in picking up that workload. She enjoyed dates, fine dining, and the status of dating a successful business owner. She was not prepared to manage household logistics or unpaid administrative labor for his company. She expected romance, not endless chores. At first, Ethan brushed off these small hiccups as temporary growing pains. He hired a cleaning service for the house and tried to outsource simple office tasks, but hiring outside help cost money, and no outside employee knew the small details I had memorized over 7 years. Mistakes started piling up. One morning, an important client meeting slipped his mind because there was no one to remind him. A vendor sent an angry email because invoices had not been sent on time. Simple household problems piled up around the big house. Lights broke, appliances acted up, and he forgot to schedule technicians. The comfortable home we built together slowly started to feel messy and unmanaged. Still, Ethan pushed all these frustrations aside. He told himself this was just the cost of his new happy life. He spent most of his free time with Serena, chasing that rush of new relationship excitement. He convinced himself he had made the right choice by leaving our old marriage behind. But trouble was brewing at his company. Several small but important clients started voicing frustrations over missed deadlines and miscommunications. Little mistakes that would never have happened when I helped behind the scenes began hurting his reputation. Profits dipped slightly for the first time in years. Ethan tried to blame stress and bad luck. He refused to admit that losing me had weakened his whole world. End of chapter. Hook. While Ethan tried to ignore his mounting troubles, tension between him and Serena began bubbling to the surface, and his business problems kept getting worse. The shiny fantasy Ethan had imagined with Serena started losing its glow fairly quickly. When the thrill of secret meetings faded, real-life problems moved front and center. Serena saw Ethan outside of the charming, romantic dates. She witnessed his bad temper when work went wrong. She watched him grow frustrated by household chores he refused to handle. She realized he expected other people to accommodate his schedule and comfort, just as I had done for so long. He was used to somebody smoothing out every problem for him, and Serena was not willing to fill that role. Fights became regular. They argued about money, about his long work hours, about how little he contributed around the house. Serena grew tired of listening to him complain endlessly about his business stress. She fell out of the infatuation that had drawn her to him. She started to understand. Ethan was not the perfect, successful partner she dreamed of. He was a flawed, selfish man who had cheated on his wife to chase excitement. Meanwhile, the business troubles multiplied. Client missteps snowballed. 2 longtime partners grew frustrated with miscommunication and pulled away from working with his firm. Revenue dropped more noticeably. Ethan was forced to work even longer hours trying to patch things up. He grew exhausted, irritable, and stressed. There was no one waiting at home to comfort him after terrible workdays anymore. In the middle of this chaos, Ethan's thoughts drifted back toward me. He started remembering all the quiet support I had given him. He recalled the nights I stayed up late helping him prepare presentations, the meals I cooked after his worst workdays, the way I stabilized his whole world without fanfare. Regret began to creep into his mind. One evening, he sent me a text message out of the blue. "How are you holding up? I have been thinking about old times. Maybe we could get coffee and talk." I read it sitting in my small apartment. I was slowly rebuilding my own life. I had reached out to old design clients, taken on my first small interior design project in years. I was healing step by step. I did not want to revisit the pain of our marriage. I replied politely but firmly, "I wish you well, but I do not think meeting for coffee is a good idea. We need to move forward separately." My short rejection stung him. He texted again, trying to push for a conversation, but I did not answer further. I had no desire to revisit what we once had. Serena grew more and more unhappy with Ethan's worsening mood and mounting problems. The man she fell for during secret romantic dates felt unrecognizable amid stress and financial pressure. The charm faded away. End of chapter. Hook. Serena began questioning if she even wanted to stay with Ethan. Meanwhile, his business and personal world kept sliding further toward collapse. Things accelerated downhill for Ethan. More clients pulled out of contracts. Word spread among local business circles about missed deadlines and poor communication. His professional reputation took a real hit. Employees grew frustrated with disorganized workflows. Profits shrank significantly. He burned through savings trying to keep the business afloat. The big, beautiful house we once shared became a heavy burden. Mortgage payments, utility bills, and maintenance costs weighed on him. Without the steady income from successful projects, keeping up with that expensive home grew difficult. At the same time, his relationship with Serena completely unraveled. One night after a huge screaming fight in that empty house, she told him the truth. "I thought you had everything figured out. I thought life with you would be easy and exciting. But all I see is stress, chaos, and a man who cannot keep his own life together. I do not want this anymore." She packed her belongings and left. Just like that, the new romance he had traded our marriage for was gone. He was left alone in that large, quiet house, with mounting work pressure and nobody to lean on. Mutual friends told me later how isolated he became. Many people who once admired him started viewing him differently once they learned the full story of his affair and how he had treated me. Some old friends pulled away. He lost much of the social respect he once enjoyed. Ethan was forced to face a harsh reality. He had chased passion and novelty, and in doing so, he had thrown away the one person who had stood faithfully beside him through poverty and struggle. All the invisible work I had done for years became visible only once it was gone. He lost stability, peace, partnership, and the woman who loved him through his hardest days. Money and status could not fill that emptiness. He kept thinking back to the early years of our marriage, when we had nothing but each other. Back then I never cared about wealth. I cared about him. He had taken that unconditional loyalty completely for granted. He reached out to me multiple times, sending long, remorse-filled messages. He described how much he regretted every choice he had made. He said he finally understood how precious I had been to him, but I did not respond. I was already building something new for myself, and I was not going backward. End of chapter Hook. Ethan sat alone in the house we built together, finally realizing he had lost far more than just his wife. He had lost the foundation his whole life rested upon. A few weeks after Serena left him, Ethan showed up on the doorstep of my small apartment late one afternoon. His appearance shocked me. He looked worn down, tired. The confident glow of success completely faded. Dark circles sat under his eyes. His shoulders slouched. He was not the polished, successful man from only months earlier. "Can I please talk to you for just a few minutes?" he asked, voice raw and heavy with sorrow. I hesitated, but I allowed him to step just inside my doorway. I kept the front door unlocked, keeping our conversation brief and contained. There was no warmth between us anymore. "I messed up everything," he said immediately. No excuses, no deflection. "I look back now and I see everything you did for me. You sacrificed your career, your time, your energy, just so I could chase my dreams. I had the most loyal, loving partner anyone could hope for, and I threw it all away for a meaningless affair. I was arrogant. Success went to my head. I confused excitement for something real." He ran a hand over his face. "I thought wealth and status would make me happy. But money means nothing without someone who truly cares about you. All the material things we worked to build feel hollow now. I lost the best thing I ever had." Tears welled up in his eyes. "I know I do not deserve a second chance, but I am begging you. Is there any possible way we could try to repair this? I would do absolutely anything to earn your trust back." I listened to his sincere-sounding apology. I could tell his regret was genuine. He was hurting deeply. But genuine remorse did not erase the damage he had caused. I had already walked down the path of healing. I was not going to reverse course. "Ethan," I said gently but firmly, "I believe you are sorry for what happened. But regret cannot undo the betrayal. I cannot go back to being the wife I was for you. That chapter of our lives is finished. I am building a new life for myself now, and I cannot include you in it." He stared at me with desperate disbelief. "Is there truly no hope at all?" "There is not," I answered. "You made your choices. Now you have to live with their consequences." His shoulders slumped further. He understood I would not change my mind. There would be no second chance, no do-over for our marriage. End of chapter Hook. Heartbroken and defeated, Ethan left my apartment. He had woken up too late, and the woman who once loved him was gone for good. I closed the door after Ethan left, and I took a long, deep breath. Hearing his apology stirred up old sadness, but it did not shake my resolve. I did not feel anger or desire for revenge. I simply felt free. The divorce finalized a couple months later. The settlement was fair. I took enough financial support to give me stable footing as I restarted my interior design career. I poured my energy into my growing business. Word spread about my work. More clients hired me. I designed warm, beautiful homes for other people, and I slowly built a beautiful life for myself too. I reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I had abandoned years ago. I traveled short trips, enjoyed quiet evenings in my apartment, and learned how to prioritize my own joy instead of putting someone else's dreams first. Healing was not instant. There were still hard, sad days, but I grew stronger with every passing week. I never spoke to Ethan again after that visit to my apartment. Mutual acquaintances kept me updated on his situation. He struggled to rescue his business. He downsized, sold our big suburban house, moved into a much smaller condo. His company survived, but it never returned to the huge success it had reached when I stood behind him. He remained single. He never rebuilt that comfortable, happy life he once had. He lived every day with the weight of knowing what he had thrown away. He got his wish of chasing a new romance, yet that choice cost him his marriage, his peace, his stable home environment, and much of his social reputation. He learned the hard lesson that true wealth is not measured in bank accounts or business profits. Real wealth comes from having a loyal partner who sticks with you through every struggle. That treasure he had destroyed by his own decisions. I never sought to punish him. I never spread cruel stories about him online. I never harassed him. My revenge was not lashing out. My revenge was living well, moving forward, and building a fulfilling life all on my own. I look back sometimes at those early hard years with Ethan. I do not erase those memories. I am grateful for the strength I gained from surviving that heartbreak. I learned that a woman's dignity does not depend on fighting for a man or fighting with another woman. Sometimes the bravest choice of all is simply to walk away when love has died. I refused to battle his mistress. I chose self-respect over conflict. And by walking away, I gave myself the gift of a brand new beginning. End of chapter hook. When you refuse to fight for something that is already broken, you open the door to find yourself again.